What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Coach Magali. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning and watching my videos again, thank you so much for being here. On this channel, I dispel all of the BS, give you what you actually need to know, and break it down so it's super simple and you can finally achieve the results that you want. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about a few underrated pieces of advice that I wish I knew when I first started out, and I think are going to make a massive impact in how simple this journey can be for you. If that's content you're interested in, please do like the video. Do make sure to subscribe down below for more content like this. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Let's get right into it. The first point that I want to talk about is adding versus only focusing on subtracting. One of the biggest things that I learned. So usually when we want to lose weight or when we want to be healthy, we focus on cutting out the bad things, right? We're going to eat less junk food, we're going to go out less, we're going to cut out the carbs, we're going to cut out the candy, and it's always like take away. And don't get me wrong, you're going to need some sacrifice in your dietary choices. You can't just eat whatever you want and be fine. But I wish that I had focused a little bit more on adding good things into my diet versus just trying to take out the bad things that I thought were bad. Instead of obsessing about cutting out all the sweets and not going out and not doing any of that, I'm going to add 3 to 4 servings of vegetables a day. Instead of cutting out caffeine and cutting out soda and cutting out juice, I'm going to focus on adding 4 to 5 bottles of water to my water intake. And so you start kind of reframing the process, like, I don't have to deprive myself, I don't have to take away everything that gives me joy, and you don't, ever. But approaching this process with the mentality of I'm here to add good things into my diet, I want to add nutrients, I want to add good things, then it almost takes away a little bit of that stress of constantly having to restrict. It makes it a little bit simpler and a little more enjoyable. Like I said before, you're still going to have to make changes to the things that you eat, and you're not going to be able to eat whatever you want, but you're going to come from it in a more positive mindset, and it's not going to feel as restrictive, and therefore more likely for you to actually stick to it. And it's just coming from a place of positivity and fueling your body and giving your body what it needs, instead of constantly just depriving. Humans don't do well when we're told we can't do things. We were like that as kids, we are like that as adults. By going this route instead, you're more likely to stick to it. It's going to be a lot more enjoyable. I benefited a lot from it. I see my clients benefit from it a lot, and I think you will too. So give it a shot. Let me know what you think. My next piece of advice would be to focus on 1 to 3 things at a time. We get very motivated, we want to make all of these changes, and so we start adding, I'm going to change this, I'm going to do this, and it just starts to get overwhelming, right? We've all been there where we start to set all these goals and we have the best of intentions, but it's not realistic, it's too much at once, and it's usually never going to pan out and actually work because you're so overwhelmed. You get paralyzed with the thought of doing any of these things. So a better way to do it is just focus on your 1 to 3 things that you know would make a massive impact. And you don't have to worry about picking the most optimal choice or the best choice or what they did. Like, look at your life and what you're doing and your current habits. What would actually make the biggest difference for me? Like, for example, somebody who's not sleeping well, is barely drinking any water, and doesn't exercise at all, maybe try going to sleep 10 to 15 minutes earlier than you usually do, and start there. And then water. Let's start adding 1 or 2 water bottles a day, the 16-ounce bottles. And then, since they're not moving at all, I'm not going to give them a 5-day gym routine. Maybe let's start with a 10-minute walk 3 times a week, or a 10-minute walk every day, depending on the person. And these 3 habits sound insanely simple, and someone might look at that and be like, that's not going to do anything, like, why even bother, why even try it? But that's the point, is you want it to be so simple and so easy that it's almost hard not to do it, and so that you're therefore likely to actually get it done because you're like, this is so easy, oh my god, like, how can I not do it? And then the habits start to build. You start going on 10-minute walks, you push to 15, and then to 30, and then I'm ready to go to the gym once. These habits start to stack up in your favor, just like bad habits stack up against you. The same thing happens in the opposite direction. Try to minimize the goals that you're working on, make it very simple, and limit it to 3 things at a time. If you're doing more than that, you're going to overwhelm yourself. Your brain is not going to be able to move forward with all of these goals at once, and so therefore you're going to feel stuck and, again, overwhelmed. So 1 to 3 things at a time, make it very simple where it's almost hard not to do, and then of course stay consistent and build up as you go. This is going to be the best way to ensure that your habits stick long term, you lose the weight, and you're able to keep it off. My next piece of advice, and this one sounds so silly and so simple, but it made such a massive impact in my diet and the way that I was, and in my consistency with my good habits, is buy things you're actually going to eat and you actually like. Like, There were so many times that I can think in the past where I bought bags and bags of spinach, telling myself I was going to make green smoothies and I was going to make all these green juices and I was going to be that girl and all this shit. Never did it. The bags always went brown, and at one point I was like, Magali, stop buying fucking spinach. You're not gonna eat it. So not only did that save me money, but it also just gave me peace of mind that, like, I'm not consistently failing to eat the foods that I thought I had to eat. For example, I don't like spinach. I don't really enjoy it. If it's in the food, I'll eat it fine, but I'm not gonna go out of my way to make it. So instead, now I just buy my frozen vegetables that I put on the stove, grill when I'm gonna eat, and they don't go bad. They're super convenient, and it tastes fine, and it's giving me the same nutrients that spinach would. But the difference is that I actually eat the frozen vegetables. People will argue like frozen is bad, fresh is better, blah blah blah. If you're not eating any vegetables and you keep buying fresh ones and you keep throwing them away because you don't eat them, those fresh vegetables are not good for you because you're not eating them. The frozen vegetables or the canned vegetables, the ones that you're actually going to eat, those are better for you because you're actually eating vegetables. A bonus tip with this one is trying to focus on making everything optimal and everything perfect is taking away from you actually doing things that are going to make a difference. Like, eating more vegetables is eating more vegetables. You can perfect where you get them from and how you eat them later, but eating more vegetables is never a bad thing. So if you don't like chicken, if you don't like meat, if you don't like ground beef, if you don't like whatever, and you're trying to buy these foods because your favorite influencer posted it, or you've seen them recommended online, or whatever the case may be, if you're not going to eat the food, don't buy it. And don't force yourself to eat it. Now, there are times that you're going to eat stuff that doesn't necessarily taste the greatest, but you have to eat it to stay on track, and that will happen. But what I'm talking about with this point is, in general, in your diet as a whole, trying to force feed yourself foods that you don't like is a recipe for disaster. You're not going to be consistent and therefore not see the results that you want to see. Go based off of your current eating habits, what you like to eat, and then just try to find options that are better for you or more convenient or healthier, whatever it may be, so that you actually stay consistent with your diet. If you're not going to eat the bag of spinach, stop buying it. My next point, which is related to the previous one, is to create a menu for yourself. So you know when you go to a restaurant and you look under salads and there's like 5 or 6 options and you pick one, whatever you're in the mood for, having that kind of structure with breakfast meals, lunch meals, dinners, and some snack options is going to give you a little bit of structure so you kind of know what to expect. It makes grocery buying a lot easier and you don't have to think about it too much. It also gives you the flexibility of having a few different options. So in case you don't want the chicken salad, you can have this one. A couple of staples for me for breakfast would be oatmeal with fruit, Greek yogurt, or some toast with some egg. That's typically what I eat on a daily basis, and I just kind of rotate based on what I'm feeling. For lunch, it'll be some kind of rice, some vegetable, and some protein, whether that's chicken that day, it'll be some steak, some fish. I'll rotate based on what I'm feeling. And then for dinner, something similar, I'll probably just eat a different kind of protein and maybe potatoes instead of rice. But having a menu and a couple options ready to go throughout the week makes it so much easier to stay consistent. When you're like, I don't know what to eat, I don't know what to make, you reference your menu and you have options and you just pick the one that you feel like eating the most. Now, if you don't feel like eating any of them, then of course make something else, but usually we are habitual eaters. We eat the same things kind of every day, and putting that into a little menu is going to save you so much time, and again, making grocery shopping a lot faster as well. And just make sure that at any given time you have those ingredients for those staple menu options in your pantry, in your fridge, so that you have it readily available and don't find yourself on Uber Eats ordering food at 10 p.m. because you don't know what to eat and you're starving. So create a menu. Don't be super rigid with it, but give yourself some options. I just feel like it made such a big difference in my diet, and I think it will for you too. Creating a menu is also really, really helpful if you're tracking your calories or you're following a meal plan, because it almost does the work for you. You just have to create that meal and you know that it matches the calories or the requirements, you know, things like that. So if you're following that kind of diet and that kind of structure, this is even more helpful. And then also when you're super busy and life is crazy and things are kind of all over the place, having your go-to meals that you can count on and you like and you know you can make easily is going to make your life a whole lot easier and just make the whole process simpler. My next tip is to stop trying to healthify everything that you like to eat. Primarily the treats, the bad things. A lot of times when we're on a health kick or we're trying to lose some weight and stay healthy, we try to healthify, meaning find better alternatives to the things that we enjoy because we feel like we need to cut them out in order to see results. And this is fine if you like the healthier versions and this is something you want to do, by all means go for it. But I have found personally, and with a lot of my clients, that when focusing on over healthifying everything, again trying to replace everything you enjoy with something healthier, you never satisfy the cravings you have for that thing. And what ends up happening is you eat the healthy version, you don't feel satisfied, so you eat a little bit more, and then you start snacking, and then eventually you give in and eat the thing that you wanted in the first place, and then you just end up binge eating and feeling like shit about yourself, when in reality, you just had to have the little piece of candy or the bag of chips, limit 1 to 2 servings, and then move on and continue with your diet as planned. A lot of the times, the healthier versions of things don't taste good, don't, again, satisfy that craving, and you're just going to end up setting yourself up for failure later. Not only that, it's not even necessary. If you're eating enough vegetables and you're eating a lot of protein and you're drinking some water, you're working out, you're relatively consistent 80% of the time, a Snickers bar is not going to kill you. A bag of Doritos is not going to kill you. A slice of pizza is perfectly fine. Of course, if you're eating the whole box, if you're eating the whole bag, if you're eating 20 cookies a day, then yes, that's problematic. But if you learn to limit yourself by having a few servings or 1 to 2 servings of your favorite snack and just continuing on your plan as usual for your next meal, you're less likely to keep snacking, because we don't like being restricted. We don't like to be told not to do something. That just makes us want to do it more. So when you start cutting out your good foods and the things that you enjoy for healthier versions, the kid in you is going to be like, I still want that though. I still want that one. And you're going to get it at some point or another. Might as well do it under your control with intention and not losing it later on at night because you've been depriving yourself all day long, and then you end up overeating, and then it's just a bad cycle. You don't have to healthify everything. It is not even necessary, and sometimes can backfire. Find the healthier versions of things that you like and you want to do, but don't obsess over healthifying everything. It's not necessary. And then the last tip that I want to give you is to set up boundaries with those around you and verbalize that you're trying to stay on track and you're trying to stick to your goals, but don't expect people to change for you. We all kind of know this, right? You want to set boundaries, you want to tell them what you're working on so that they support you, but a lot of people expect others around them to see them changing their life and to see them making these choices and expect them to join them or to want to be like them as well. And sometimes that happens, and that's wonderful and that's great, and sometimes it doesn't, and it doesn't matter how much you try to convince somebody to do it with you. Ultimately, that's their decision. It's only going to bring you down and cause resentment, and you guys know it's just not a good place to be. So set those boundaries. Be like, if we're talking about a spouse, like, hey babe, so I'm trying to lose 50 pounds. I know we've been eating out a lot and I want to spend quality time with you, but right now I have to be smart about what I'm eating. I can't be going out to eat 4 to 5 times a week. I can only go once. And then talk about what days you want to go with them so that there's clear boundaries, and then leave it at that. If they join you, cool. But something that isn't cool to do is be like, so you need to stop going in and out, and you need to stop doing this, and you see what I mean? Like you're putting pressure on them to do something that you want to do, and that is just not going to work out at all. And I've tried to control people before in my life to make it easier for me, but at the end of the day, you cannot control anybody. You don't have that power, and it's only going to cause resentment in that relationship. So if it's somebody you care about and you don't want to ruin things, like, just express your boundaries, express what you're doing and how they can support you, but don't try to change them and put pressure on them to be doing exactly what you're doing, because one, it may not even be a goal of theirs. They just don't want to, they're not ready, whatever the case may be. But it's not your job to force somebody to change their habits, just to make it easier for you. So set the boundary, but also don't expect anybody to follow what you're doing. I hope that by me sharing these tips, you can see how simple, laid back you can be to achieve great results, and it's not supposed to create this insane amount of pressure and this insane amount of stress and overwhelm. And if it is, then it's time to look at where you're overcomplicating things. Are you focusing on too many things? Are you trying to force yourself to eat things you don't like? Are you putting too much pressure on those around you? And that's what it takes to see results. It's just about simplifying, being honest with yourself, and saying, where can I simplify my life a little bit here? And that's all it takes. That's all that matters. Consistency is the name of the game. You guys have heard this over and over again, I'm sure, but it's the freaking truth. If you cannot stay consistent with what you're doing, it does not matter how beautifully, perfectly well put that thing is, it's not going to work. Consistency beats everything. And that's where your main focus should be. And in order to stay consistent, we have to have things that are simple to do. That's just how our brains work. Don't fight against your brain. Don't fight against how we naturally are. use it to your advantage, and focus on this journey and this process from a place of I'm trying to nourish myself, I want to be healthier, I want to bring positive things into my life, instead of I suck, I need to cut all this out, and this journey is terrible and it's horrible. And your life will be a whole lot easier and you'll enjoy the process a lot more. Let me know which of these pieces of advice you didn't know or surprised you, or you knew them already. Let me know below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Any questions, concerns, leave them below as always. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. If this video resonated with you, please share it with a friend or somebody you know would benefit from it as well. And don't forget to subscribe, like the video, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much for being here again. I will see you in the next one. Peace out.